friends, it's Gwen. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing an author spotlight on B.A. Paris. I'm going to be talking about her first 3 published books. It's the only 3 she has currently published, and a little bit about them and what I think about her work moving forward and all of that. I want to first apologize that this video is late. It's been a very busy week, so I didn't have this up and posted on Thursday like I wanted, but hopefully you get something out of this video and maybe it encourages you to try one or more of her books, because I quite enjoyed them, especially the first one, which I'm sure once I hold up her book she'll be like, oh yeah, she's talked about that book a lot. And I do have some notes, so if you see me like glancing over, it's because I have my notes right over here. So her 3 books that she currently has published: Behind Closed Doors, which is her first book. Her second book was The Breakdown, and her third book is Bring Me Back. And I have read all of these back to back. So I got this one, read it, went out, read this one, then read this one, and I've just loved every second of it. And I'm really glad that I read them like that. And also I'm really excited about her 4th book, but I did share some information. I thought I saw somewhere that she was having a new book coming out in like August of 2019, but it's actually January 23rd, 2020. So no new book, but she is working on her 5th book. So at least like 2 more books. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump into the information. So the first thing that I want to tell you about B.A. Paris is it is an abbreviated name. Her name is really long, or that's the explanation that she gave why she uses her initials instead of like her full name. She did grow up in England, but she has spent much of her adult life in France, and she is married and has 5 children. And I thought it was interesting that she's worked in finance and also as a teacher. I believe her and her husband opened up a language school, so not too sure about all the details of that, but I thought that that was pretty cool being a teacher myself, so I enjoyed that little fun fact. So all of B.A. Paris's books are considered fiction and under the genre like suspense. I wouldn't really say psychological thriller, but they do have psychological thriller elements woven throughout each of them. Especially the first one. I think the first one was really twisted and sadistic. But we're about to jump into each individual novel now. But I want to go ahead and just share basically what they're about and my thoughts and so forth. So the first one, my friend Erin just bought me just like as like a little gift, and it was like with a whole bunch of other stuff. I think I shared it with you guys in that reading vlog, and I've done reading vlogs I think for all of her books. If you're interested in my thoughts like more in depth as I'm reading it and how much I'm into them or whatever, check out those individual reading vlogs. But I read them in order. So the first one, Behind Closed Doors, it's like an international bestseller now, and it just, the title kind of says it all, and like the little words on the front, The Perfect Marriage or The Perfect Lie. And this is about Grace and Jack, and they seemingly have this like perfect relationship. They're this perfect couple, perfect marriage, but something seems off. It's like there's red flags going off when like Grace's friends just have these red flags going off. There's something off. They're too perfect. Nobody is that perfect. And when you start reading this, you can kind of tell that like something is amiss, like what's going on, and you really don't know exactly what's going on or what's wrong until like you're reading it for a little bit. But you just have this like eerie, chilling vibe, and it's just so interesting. And I literally could not put this down. I read it in one sitting. I rated it 5 stars. It made like one of my best reads of 2018 list, but this one was published back in 2016, so it's been around for a while. I'm so happy that I finally read it. Jack, one of the main characters, is one of the most twisted, sadistic, like just dark SOBs I've ever read about, and it just, oh my goodness, you guys, crazy. You have to suspend your belief a little bit while reading this, and I think that's one of the biggest gripes about this book is like there's no way that that would like happen, or it's not that unique of a story. It's the first time I've kind of read a story with like this kind of twist and suspense and chill to it, so I really enjoyed it and I rated it 5 stars. Also, what I like is because everything is not revealed right off the bat. Like the suspense just like builds and builds and builds, and like then the whole story's like laid in front of you and you're just like, oh my gosh. And I've gotten so many people to read this book. So like Aaron gave it to me and I loaned this out to Eileen. We also got Brittany and Carrie to read it, and the last line of this book still to this day sticks with me so much. And it's not one of those last lines that you could just like turn to the back, read the last line and like get it. You really have to read the whole book for the last line to even make sense. But once you do, it sticks with you, you guys, in not a good way. So yeah, I really loved this one. 5 stars. I think I'm gonna hold on to this one for a very long time, just because I was like really kind of blown away by this book, and this being her debut. I was really excited about that. Next book that she published was published in 2017, and that is The Breakdown. And the title of this one kind of has 2 like meanings. So the story starts, let me see the names. Oh, Cass and her husband, they're on the phone. I guess it's storming, and Cass promised her husband that she wasn't going to take a shortcut through the woods to their house. And I guess they were like meeting or something like that, and he had a headache, so he was going to lay down. But she ended up taking the shortcut through the woods, even though she told him she wouldn't. And she saw a car broken down like through the halfway point or something like that through the woods. And she pulled over and was going to help, but it just, something was like off. Like she got out of the car and they didn't like flash their lights, and you know, it's raining and it's storming and everything, so she was like, okay, I guess that like if they needed help they would have like flashed their lights, or you know, given me some type of indication that they needed help. Maybe help's already on the way. So she went ahead and drove home. She got home, and then the next day, basically she wakes up, her husband tells her, oh, did you hear about this accident in the woods? And I guess it was on the news. And come to find out, like she ended up knowing the woman that had broken down in the woods. Can't tell her husband, oh yeah, I saw her broken down. But then she starts feeling like super guilty that like she didn't stop and help, and she's keeping this from her husband as well. So there's that breakdown, the breakdown of like the actual car in the woods. And then it, you know, it turns out that the lady was murdered. And then Cass starts forgetting things like where her keys are, how to run the washing machine, how to work the alarm code on her house. So she also feels like she can concentrate on nothing else other than the woman that got murdered in the woods, and she could have maybe saved her or prevented it from happening, or maybe she would have been murdered herself. And she starts getting these silent phone calls and all that. Now, as exciting as that sounds, basically that's what happens. You hear about her driving through the woods with a shortcut. You hear about all these things that Cass is unable to do, and about all of these silent calls. And she keeps telling her husband about the silent calls, and he kind of just like brushes it aside, like, oh, it must be a telemarketer or something like that. And she kind of starts freaking herself out. She's like, oh my gosh, the murderer's after me. He knows, or he or she knows that I saw them, or thinks I saw them. And she starts thinking that the murderer's after her. And but basically nothing really happens until like pretty much near the end. But as it's going on, I'm just trying to figure out like who's leaving her silent calls, why is she losing her mind, why is she forgetting how to do all this stuff. And then as it started getting towards the end, I kind of started piecing it together. Not everything, but a lot of it. And for that reason, I rated this one 3 out of 5 stars. But I still thought it was a really cool idea. I really liked the writing. I really liked the characters. And I had never read a story like that before. So I enjoyed that. The third novel by B.A. Paris is Bring Me Back, and this one was published in 2018. So this is her newest release. I think it was March of 2018 that it released, so almost a year ago. And I also rated this one 3 stars. I think after reading Behind Closed Doors, it just left such an impact that I think it's like one of those rare things. Like, I don't think I'm gonna get like that level of love again, but maybe like a 4 star. I'm shooting for a 4-star book on her 4th publication. But for this one, to tell you a little bit about this is about Layla and Finn. They're absolutely in love. They just went to like London or something like that on vacation, and they're returning home, and Finn stops at a service station and to go like to the restroom, and he gets out of the car, he locks the door, he goes into the restroom, and when he gets back to the car, Layla is gone. But that's not the entire story. And it tells you that like right in the beginning. Like, Finn tells you, that's the story I told the police, but that's not the whole story. So you definitely know that like something's up, and you spend the majority of this book trying to figure out what happened. If that's not the whole story, tell me the whole story. But now so Layla has disappeared, and for a very long time they were looking for her, could never find her, so I don't know, presumed dead, I guess. But now it's 10 years later, and Finn is engaged to Ellen, who is Layla's sister. Odd, I know, but I guess like the grief brought them together or something like that. So now it's like a little bit before they're expected to be married, and Finn gets a call from like an old neighbor or something like that that says that Layla has been spotted. And like it just brings up all this controversy, like, oh my gosh, is Layla still alive? Where is she? What happened to her? And then at the same time, you know those Russian nesting dolls that like, there's like a big one and you open it up and there's like another one, and then you open it up and there's another one. Well, these Russian nesting dolls are being found like on their fence of Finn and Ellen's house, like on near the gate and stuff, and they're kind of being found like, first they find one, and it's kind of like a sign from Layla's past, like that's something only she would know, and you're like, oh my gosh, where did this come from? And then they're like left, like there's like a pub that they go to, and there's one left on their bill, like, you know, the little tray that you get your bill, like that. And then so Finn's like, oh my gosh, Layla was my one true love, and now these nesting dolls are popping up. It could only mean one thing, that Layla's alive and trying to send me a message. And then Finn's kind of hiding this from Ellen, and then Ellen's getting information and she's hiding it from Finn, and it's just craziness. You're like, if you guys would just communicate. So it's kind of creepy because you're wondering like, what's going on? Is Layla alive? Why is she not just like coming back and being like, Finn, here I am, this is what happened to me, if she's alive? And I was also like wondering, like, did Finn have something to do with her disappearance? Did Ellen have something to do with her disappearance? Like, what's going on? So you're spending a majority of the time figuring out what actually happened, and then you're also dealing with kind of some crazy characters that just are like, they're just annoying, and it just was kind of driving me crazy. And again, you have to suspend your belief a little bit with this one. That is Bring Me Back, and like I said, I rated this one 3 stars as well. And the last thing that I want to talk to you about is, I think I saw somewhere that her 4th book is supposed to be released in August of this year, and I was really excited about it. But I recently like saw where she answered some questions, and it's been updated that her newest book will be released January 23rd of 2020. I was unable to find a title, but I'm really looking forward to it like a year from now. So yeah, so you have some time to like catch up on her previous works. If I was going to suggest one to you, obviously it would be Behind Closed Doors. These were good as well, but like nowhere near as good as Behind Closed Doors. That's all for today's video. Let me know what you thought about this author spotlight. I'm also thinking about doing it with other authors that I read all of their work. So if you enjoyed this, give it a thumbs up to let me know that you want to see more of these in the future. If not, I'll just do them from time to time when I feel like it. But that's all for today's video. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you're all having a lovely day, and I'll see you again in my next video. Bye!